Welcome back, guys. With the World Championship Series and the new meta upon us, I'm sure you've all either fallen victim to Shaddoll or want to hand out some losses with them yourself. I don't have a number for you to call for your pain and suffering, but I can send you on your way to becoming a master puppeteer. In this video, we're going to go over the thought process behind how to build Shaddolls, as well as what the deck is capable of and its limitations. This isn't strictly a guide on how to play the deck, but it will have a couple replays towards the end with gameplay. Why play Shaddolls, aside from the fact that it's tier 1 and kicking everybody's ass right now? Well, Shaddoll is primarily a fusion-based deck. It can negate your opponent's monsters, punish them for special summoning, it has a multitude of spell and traps to keep the boss monsters coming, and it can also give you a significant card advantage both on the field and from the graveyard. Most of the monsters have two effects. The main deck monsters have a flip effect and a graveyard effect. You can only use one of these effects per turn, and it is a hard once per turn. So remember which ones you've used. All of the extra deck monsters, with the exception of App Cologne, which we're going to call Al Capone for the rest of the video because it's kind of a pain to pronounce, they aren't once per turn, so you can use all of their effects multiple times per turn. Let's go ahead and get into what the cards do. Beast draws cards, literally all he does. Wendy special summons a Shaddoll from deck. If you need a certain Shaddoll that you didn't get in your opening hand, she can help you get it. Hollow either banishes a face-up monster your opponent controls, or mills cards from the deck. Ariel banishes up to 3 cards from either graveyard. Dragon can bounce a card or pop a spell trap. Squamata pops a monster or foolishes a Shaddoll card. Hedgehog is an Omni Search. Depending on which effect you use, you can get a monster, spell, or trap. Genius is a monster negate. Falco can special summon itself or another Shaddoll from the graveyard, depending on which effect you use. Fusion. This one, it is a poly, but it can send monsters from your deck to the graveyard if your opponent has an extra deck monster out. Shaddoll Fusion, El Shaddoll Fusion, just a quick play poly. Reincarnation brings back your monsters, also banishes itself to flip your monsters face up or down. And Schism, this is another fusion card, it's your trap fusion. Can also send a monster to the graveyard, but any monster that's summoned using it can't attack directly, so keep that in mind. For your extra deck cards, we've got Construct. This is your main Shaddoll Fusion. Automatically pops a special summon monster at battles. Sends a Shaddoll from your deck to the graveyard. And like all the other fusions, recycles a spell trap when it goes to the grave. Shikanaga, he's a monster negate. Al Capone can negate a face-up card. Also, unlike the other fusions, instead of recycling a spell trap specifically, you can grab any Shaddoll card. Glista stops a special summon. However the hell you say that. The water one makes it so we can't special summon using spell or traps from the hand or graveyard. Wendigo protects one of your monsters from being destroyed by battle or card effects. And then the final monster in the extra deck, we don't have a hard copy of it yet, for fusions. Winda, I'm sure you guys know what this one does. Can't be destroyed by card effects. Both players can only special summon one time per turn. So what is this deck capable of? Well, I'm sure I don't have to tell you guys that this deck is pretty busted. Getting off a lot of effects in a row that can generate some pretty good card advantage, along with disrupting or breaking the opponent's board, or just outright preventing them from doing anything, is pretty damn good. Unlike the decks in the last box we had, Shaddolls can go first or second. Getting out a boss monster or two turn 1 with some disruption and a follow-up play for the next turn is not very uncommon. Going second, playing through interruptions and still getting game on board definitely is not that hard to pull off. Even with Utopia having like 5 or 6 negates, you can still win the game and play through it if you know how to play it right. In the past, Shaddoll has struggled to compete with the meta decks of its time. It's usually had to rely on other engines such as Invoked or Magistus. Simply having Winda as a floodgate wasn't enough since it's not hard to play around one card. The deck had no real interruptions on its own. With the addition of cards like Ariel, Al Capone, even having hard copies of cards now that we didn't before, like Fusion and Schism, it's a lot stronger and more consistent. Plus, with having the skill adding in Fusion monsters, some extra deck room has been freed up for other cards, so we can put more staples in to help us out. You can play other engines if you don't want to play Pure, but we'll discuss that later on. On the flip side, despite the deck's power, shutting off the graveyard can definitely hurt this deck, or at the very least, slow us down. Nibiru can board wipe us, and we won't get our graveyard effects, since the monsters are treated as cost, they're not being sent via an effect. Other hand traps, such as Droll or Valor, they can help, but it's not impossible for the deck to play through, so to just slow them down. Stopping fusions definitely prevents us from getting our boss monsters out and hurts our game plan. Straight up banishing the Shaddoll cards hurts the deck because we won't get a graveyard effects. They're no longer on the field. Some of our own cards limit us as well. Winda affects both players, so once it's out, we can both only special summon once per turn. Winda is what's called a floodgate card. If you don't know what that is, a floodgate is a card that heavily restricts or prevents one or both players from using a game mechanic or certain types of cards. They are considered toxic by a lot of players. Usually 1 or 2 isn't too bad depending on the deck you're going against, but having a lot of floodgates is straight up toxic. A lot of people are against floodgates. They don't think that they should exist, but there you have it. Shaddoll is one of those decks that doesn't have one certain way to achieve a specific end board. It's chaotic if you look at the deck list, and there is a lot going on. If you're not good at remembering things or knowing when to use a card at a certain point in the game, then this deck might not be for you. A lot of effect activations and confirmations are gonna pop up on the screen when you're playing. So even with the update that extended the game timer during our opponent's turn by 30 seconds, you are still going to time out if you don't know what to do. You're still going to time out even if you know the deck. But it'll happen a lot more if you don't. I still time out sometimes using the deck. I was on a 15-16 game win streak and I lost the time. My own fault, but still, yeah, it happens. One of the best pieces of advice I could probably give you guys for this deck is to learn what the cards do and practice your plays. That way you have enough time to make all of your plays, learn the matchups and what your cards do. It'll help you a ton. Let's go ahead and get into building the deck itself. Depending on when you're watching this video, there's a couple different ways you can get the Shaddoll cards. If you're watching it around the time of release, then the WCS anniversary box should still be out. If it is, you can get all the old cards from there, and then you just need the newest support from Chaos Voltage. If it's not around anymore, then you can get most of the older cards from Phoenix Blaze. You'll also have to go into Rainbow Overdrive and Boral Sword Slash. This is excluding any other extra deck monsters or staples that you might want to include in the deck. 40 skill, we're playing Reign of Shadows. Like most of the new skills coming into the game, you get it from the trader if you don't have it. It's got a couple effects. We are locked into Shaddoll and Spellcaster type monsters for monsters with the level. So Xyz and Lynx, you can play whatever you want, that's fine. But if it has a level, it has to be Spellcaster or Shaddoll. This is the reason that we can't play an Invoked engine, because while Alistair is a Spellcaster, the fusion monsters are not. In addition to that, at the beginning of the game, we foolish 3 normal traps from our deck to the graveyard, so our reincarnation. And we can also reveal 2 Shaddoll cards in our hand, grab any Shaddoll card we want. So as long as we open at least 2, our Shaddoll fusion is always going to be live. We also get 1 copy of each of the fusions added to our extra deck. So that's pretty nice. We get a 1 copy of Winda, since we do not have a hard copy in the game still. Also, if we go second, we get the option to set a Shaddoll monster from our deck. It can be flipped that turn, so that can be pretty nice if you need a monster that you didn't get in your opening hand, or if you want an interruption or something like that, you can get it with the skill. For the main deck itself, we're only playing 1 monster at 3 copies, and that is Shaddoll Wendy. She special summons a Shaddoll from the deck. Pretty good card. Like the skill, you can grab a monster that you might need if you didn't get it. Pretty nice. 42 ofs for the monsters. We're playing 2 copies of Ariel, Dragon, Squamata, and Hedgehog. You can play 1 copy of these cards if you want, depending on the ratios that you want to run. There are some people that only play 1 copy of Squamata, period. That's fine, it's not wrong. I wouldn't play 3 copies of these cards though. It is nice to use their effects multiple times per game, but you don't want to brick on them, have a bunch of the same card in your hand. So I think 2 copies is good, but 1 is justifiable. For the 1-ofs, we are playing 1 copy of Shaddoll Beast. He draws cards. In a deck that can search almost any card it wants, it's not necessary. It's just nice to have. Get that extra draw 1. Hollow. Being able to banish a monster or mill cards to the graveyard to get more effects off is pretty nice. But it is a high level. You only need 1. Sometimes I'll set him turn 2 if I'm going second with the skill. That way I can flip him up, deal with an opponent's troublesome monster if they've got 1 out. Genius, he's mainly in here for the Shikanaga fusion material requirement. He does negate a monster on the field, so that's pretty nice too. But we only need 1 of him. We're only playing 1 copy of the fusion. Falco is our last 1-of monster in the deck for Shaddolls. He can revive himself or another Shaddoll, so that's pretty nice. If I'm going first and I have Falco, if I have Winda out, I will set the Falco. That way, if my opponent deals with the Winda, I can get it back with Falco. Pretty nice. Still keeps him locked to 1 special summon. We're playing 3 copies of Shaddoll Fusion. If you don't have 3, you can play 1 or 2. Play however many copies you have. You do need at least 1 copy to play this deck. So if you don't have any Shaddoll Fusion at all, wait until you get at least 1 copy, and then you can make the deck. Being able to send monsters from our deck to the graveyard is pretty nice, especially since we do get their effects. Pretty powerful card. We're playing 2 copies of El Shaddoll Fusion. It's nice to have a quick play poly, especially if you're going for game, you need a little extra bit of damage, or if your opponent's trying to get rid of your cards, interrupt you. You can play this, get around the interruption. It's pretty nice. Some people are playing 3 copies. I don't think playing 1 is enough. I guess you could play 1 if you wanted to, but I'd say 2 or 3 is good. For the traps, we're playing 3 copies of Incarnation. That is non-negotiable. The skill has to send 3 normal traps, and these are our 3 normal traps. So we will never draw them during the game. We'll never see them in our opening hand. You can recycle it with the fusions if you want to add it back to your hand from the graveyard. But a lot of times you're probably going to be using it for the banish effect to flip your Shaddolls face up or down. But being able to special summon from the graveyard is pretty nice too. So essentially, since these cards always get sent at the start of the duel, you're technically starting the game at 27 cards, not 30. And for the last trap, we're playing 1 copy of Schism. You don't need more than 1. It is trap fusion. You can send a monster the same attribute to the graveyard that you summon from your opponent's field. But keep in mind, you can't attack directly with the monsters summoned with this card. So you are going to have to keep track of which ones you've summoned with it and which one you haven't. A lot of people are teching in Cyclone to get rid of this card, so kind of keep that in mind as well. Be on the lookout for Cyclones, because your opponent will use it if they have it. The remaining 6 slots in the deck are taken up by tech cards. I'm playing 3 copies of Nibiru. It's still selection box exclusive at the time of this video, so if you don't have it, that's fine. You don't have to play it. But if you do have 3 or even 1 or 2 copies, go ahead and throw it in. It's a pretty good card in this format. A lot of the decks summoning 5 or more times per turn. Pretty good if you got it. And then for the remaining 3 slots, I'm playing 2 copies of Cosmic Cyclone. It's pretty good right now for removing pesky back row or face-up cards that your opponent might have. If you're playing the mirror match, it gets rid of your opposing Schism. Pretty nice. Utopia can get rid of their equip cards. Pretty good. It's never been a bad card. It's always just, it either sees play depending on what format it's in. So if it's good for the format, it will see play. If it's not, then it won't. And then the last card in the deck, we're playing 1 copy of Super Poly. This is a fusion-based deck. Come on, you guys had to know Super Poly was coming. Not playing Super Poly in a fusion deck is wild, bro. I don't need to explain what this one does. You guys all have PTSD from Heroes with this. Plus side, though, for our opponents, if you're worried about it, we have no way to search this card, so we got to hard draw it. For the extra deck, I'm playing 2 copies of Construct. The 3rd copy is added from the skill, so technically you have 3 copies of it. Al Capone, we're playing 2 of this card. I think 2 Impure is pretty good. If something happens to the first one, you got a 2nd copy. You're probably really only going to use 1, but you got a 2nd one in case you need it. The rest of the extra deck is going to be mostly generic staple cards. There are 2 other cards that I highly suggest you play in this deck, and that is Artemis. She's a Link 1 light spellcaster, so you can get her out by linking off one of your spellcaster Shaddolls. She's a light material for Construct, so if you don't have another light material to get her Construct out, she gives you the material. And then the other card I highly recommend is Gravity Controller. It's a Link 1. To summon this, you have to use an extra deck monster, so you're linking off one of your fusions, putting this card in the extra monster zone. You get the Spell Trap Recycle effect, and you can also get rid of an opponent's pesky monster that's in the extra monster zone as well. So, pretty nice. For the rest of the extra deck, I'm playing the IP Goddess package. I've also got Unicorn as a target for IP as well. If you don't have the IP Goddess package, then don't worry about it. You can just play whatever generic staples you have that's good. Let's go ahead and talk about the Dogma version of this deck. This is the one that I like to play. There are a few notable changes from the pure build. I dropped most of the tech codes for the Dogma engine, along with one copy of Aerial and Shaddoll Fusion. So I'm only playing one Aerial and two Fusions for this build. I did max out on 3 copies of Nadir's Servant. If you only have 1 or 2 copies of this card, that's fine. You can just put in a third Ecclesia and put the last slot as a tech card. That's fine, not a big deal. Ecclesia searches your other Dogma cards. Blur is a monster negate, boosts your monster's attack. Dogma, monster's attack. And then Maximus is the real breadwinner here. He rips 2 cards out of your opponent's extra deck. You also have to send 2 of your extra deck monsters to the graveyard, but that's fine. It's going to hurt your opponent way more than it's going to hurt you. I did make one change to the extra deck, and that was swapping out a copy of Al Capone for Elder Entity. So if you have a copy, definitely throw it in. Keep in mind that once you use Servant or any of the Dogma cards, you can't special summon from the extra deck for the rest of that turn. So make sure that you do that last. I'll usually send Elder Entity and a Shaddoll Fusion monster with Maximus. That way I can get a pop off of Entity, rip 2 cards out of my opponent's extra deck, and get a spell or trap back from the graveyard with the Shaddoll Fusion monster I sent. That way I have a follow-up for next turn. If it's turn 1, you can send 2 of the Shaddoll Fusion monsters to the graveyard instead and get 2 spell traps back. So you could get a Fusion back and an Incarnation for a Revival. Maximus is once per turn, so you can keep using the extra deck whip effect every turn as long as it's alive on the field and you've got cards to send. So that's the other nice thing about the skill, adding 6 monsters to your extra deck. We're playing with a 15 card extra deck, so you've got plenty of cards to whip out, and it won't affect your game plan too much. If you're missing some of the cards that I've mentioned in the video so far, there are some additional cards that you could play in place of those cards. So if you don't have Nibiru, you can just play Effect Veiler instead. You can play 1 to 3 copies of it, however many copies you can fit into the deck. Still a pretty good card. Some people are playing 1 copy of Hound and Chaos. I think that's how you say that. Hound is a pretty good card. He recycles a Shaddoll card from the graveyard, and you can also flip a monster face up or down if you sent to the graveyard. So not a bad card to play. I'm just not playing it in mine. Chaos, he lets you special summon a Shaddoll from your hand, and if you sent to the graveyard, he can boost your monster's attack. So it can give you a little power boost. Again, I don't play this card, but there are some people that play 1. It is a light attribute monster, so it's also a target for construct material if you want to do that. And then, as I mentioned before, some people are teching in Droplet instead of Cyclone. At this point, it hasn't really been determined like which one is really optimally better. You could play either one. And then the equipped, I think it's Nephi Shaddoll Fusion. This is a nice little card that you can use. Either if you don't have multiple copies of Shaddoll Fusion, or if you do have multiple copies of Shaddoll Fusion, you could still play this card. It is basically a Shaddoll Fusion, and it also allows you to change or declare what attribute you want the monster to be. So if you need a specific attribute for one of the fusions and you don't have it, you can use this card, make the monster that attribute, and you'll be able to get that fusion monster out. So it's definitely a nice little card to use. And then for some extra deck cards, you could put in Abyss Dweller, generic rank 4. You guys all know what this does by now. I discuss it in every video. It's pretty good. If you're missing some of the extra deck cards, you can put this card in. It's not restricted by the skill, so you can summon it. Nightmare Phoenix, pretty good card. Generic Link 2, pops a back row. You guys know what it does. And then if you guys have Goddess, but you don't have IP, you could play Moon of the Closed Heaven instead of IP. It allows you to use one of your opponent's monsters as a link material if you're using a link 5 monster. So Goddess, which is a link 5. Just keep in mind, unlike IP, it is not a quick effect, so you won't be able to use it during your opponent's turn. But it is an option. If you want to play it, you can. Let's go ahead and get into the replays. First one is against the Utopia player. He's on a 5-game win streak. So he's going to set up mostly a standard Utopia board. There's a couple differences. You'll see what they are at the end of his turn. He's activating his skill, searching his sages, and he's going to start comboing from there. As for my hand, you can see I didn't open any fusion cards at all. It was all just Shaddoll monsters. Fortunately, I will be able to use the skill to search my fusion, so that's not that big of a deal. You're going to see me trying to force him to use his negates and his interruptions. That way I can play through them and get my cards out. So he's still searching cards. He's going to go into another rank 4 here in a minute, plus get a second Utopia Ray. Equipping his second ZW monster. There's the other rank 4. Just a generic rank 4. They play a generic rank 4, that way they can rank it up with Variant Force. He goes into the Battling Boxer, and he doesn't search the trap, which is a big mistake. So I'm going to activate the skill, add Shaddoll Fusion, set Hollow, that way I can use its Banish effect, which I'm going to force him to negate it. Then I'm going to use Shaddoll Fusion, use that off so it isn't destroyed and I don't lose a material. And we're going to go into Capone, that way I can attempt to negate another face-up card. Genius also will negate a card, so I've got double negate targeting him right now. Negates Capone. We go into Gravity Controller. He's going to negate this with his Battling Boxer, which is fine. That's what I wanted him to do. Capone searches a card, discards Beast. I draw the card I just lost. Go into Fusion. We're getting Construct. Construct's effect, and Wendy, we're going to get another monster. He Valors my Construct, so I don't get to send a card or automatically destroys special summon monsters for this turn. Flipping Sfumata, pop his Leo. I can't use the effect, so I'll swing over his Battling Boxer. And then he can't do anything else, so he just surrenders, and that's game. The second replay is going to be against a zombie player. Not the best opponent, but I do get to use the Dogma cards in this one, so I wanted to showcase that mainly. He's going to go first. You can see I opened pretty decent this time. I didn't get Fusion again, but since I can grab it with the skill, it's not that big of a deal. We're going to go ahead and use the skill. Searching out another Fusion, setting Dragon from the deck. Going to activate Fusions. Going into Capone for a negate. We're going to target Doom King. Dragon pops the Zombie World, and Wendy special summons from the deck. He has to negate the Wendy because of the order of the chain. So we're going to go Fusion into Winda. Getting graveyard effects from Hollow, Squamata. Activating Servant. Searching Equestria. Entity pops Doom King. Equestria, we're searching Maximus, summoning the Maximus, using the effect to rip 2 cards out of our opponent's extra deck. We get 2 recycles of spell traps off of our Shaddoll fusion monsters for follow-up for next turn. To go ahead and set those, go into battle phase. He steals my monster, which is not a big deal. He's going to try to mind control. I use fusion so he can't link off my 2 monsters. Go into construct. Construct's effect plus window, getting back the fusion we just used. Going to send dragon, pop the crackdown, get my monster back. He's then going to go into Banshee to get Zombie World so he can get his Doom King next turn, which he does do, but it's not going to do much or anything. Swing over it with Construct, and we've got lethal on board. There's nothing else he could do, so that's game. If you guys stuck around all the way to the end, thank you for enduring my yapping. I know I talk a lot. There was a lot of info in this video, so I hope you learned something from it and enjoyed it. If you did, please consider liking and subscribing for more content. This channel is intended to mainly help everyone become better deck builders and learn how the cards work. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this one up. Thanks for watching, guys. Good luck in the World Championship qualifiers, and I'll see you in the next one.